Hi, welcome to the Nexus blog for Maker Education. I'm Caroline Keep, and today I've got with me one of my long-standing collaborators, the co-founder of Liverpool Makefest, Mark Feltham.
Yeah.
So we're going to have like a proper little chat today about Maker ethos, chilled out at my house, preparing to do Liverpool Makefest this year. So it's our 5th birthday, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's who'd have thunk it, eh?
5 years.
When we first started it was like, oh, we'll try this year, we'll try something, and then before you know it, it was year after year, and now we're on year 5. So
Yeah.
it's all good. Happy days.
Yeah, 5th year. I can't believe it's like the 5th year. It's still getting me. I was writing me, Mark and Denise have all been writing the National Maker Education Guidance for the National Libraries Task Force to run your own Makefest. And I was finishing it up today. And I was trying to write some of the intro, and it was like really, really weird. It was it's like I trying to put things in there like, he's really proud of we did a thing 5 years ago. And then I was like, what do I say in this? This is really strange. So yeah, it's kind of just dawned upon me that that's like 5 years in the making, sort of, really.
I see what you did there.
Oh, yeah,
5 years,
5 years in the making.
in the making.
Yeah, I know,
Scarecrows.
like that.
Yeah.
So go on.
Go on, what?
You're really terrible on camera. You know that? You like keep doing the thing where you're like nervous about it.
I'm not nervous. I just wait for you to ask me something.
All right, I'll ask you questions.
So ask me questions.
Right,
I'll give you answers.
Right,
this is like
so, Makefest.
Makefest.
What would you describe Makefest as? Because there's loads of teachers that are going to be out there
Okay, right.
that have no idea about what Makefest is.
What Makefest is. All right. So Makefest is like a big gathering of people who make cool things. And we'll happily chat to and show you how they make these cool things. So imagine like a big space, big room, or we run it in the library, lots and lots of floors with lots and lots of trestle tables, let's say, with cool things that people have invented and made, everything from, it could be magic wands all the way up to underwater robots or AR and VR, Cody bits, crafty bits, anything that people make. And happy and delighted to show you how they do it and encourage you to do the same. Are the kinds of things that's there. Also workshops, free workshops for kids.
Yeah, we do loads of
loads and loads of workshops. So that's the other important thing. It's a free event. Nobody pays to come in. Nobody pays to attend it. So we don't charge makers for setting up a stand or whatever it is. We even give them lunch. So
yeah,
we buy them food.
Lunch and we give them
We
give
do.
them a badge that says a Maker badge.
Yeah, we have
How
a
many of
different
those have you got now?
badge every year. Well, I've got 4 now, haven't I?
Yeah, no, that's boss badges. We get a boss badge.
Oh, we do.
And
Because we're
certain members have got boss badges who've done organisation,
yeah,
but
boss
like
badges.
Maker badges in general, I've got like a stack. I've got like
Yeah.
a stack in my hallway.
Because Makefest kind of came around. Should we talk about this? Makefest, how it
go for
arose.
it.
Makefest. So there's this thing in how do we do it? It's
There's a thing in the States called Maker Fair.
called Maker Fair. That's
And there
right.
was one nationally here that was amazing.
Yeah, it used to run every year in Newcastle over a whole weekend.
Yeah, and you used to go, and it was the social calendar event for makers in the UK, and everybody would get together, and it was awesome. And then it got bigger and bigger, and then they started to sort of charge for it and charge people for it, and it kind of didn't sit. And this is what this episode is supposed to be about: the Maker ethos.
Maker ethos.
Didn't sit in the Maker ethos. People were donating the time to come along, and then people
charged
were
for
then
that.
being charged to come in to see us.
So it became a bit of a money-making thing. Although, in fairness, it didn't ever make a profit. It was a non-profit thing, but
Yeah,
it lost that feel that's hard to describe.
And
Where
I think Newcastle Life did a very good job of trying to
Brilliant.
keep it,
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
running. But it became more expensive for them to do. So we decided 5 years ago to set up a free festival in a library, just for our community in Liverpool.
We did. And I mean, initially it was like, we'd like to do one of those in Liverpool because Newcastle's quite a ways to go. And it was the only one that was around at the time. So we thought, why don't we do one in Liverpool? And our first thought, if you remember, was to see if we could do what was called a mini Maker Fair. So it's actually applying to Make magazine in America for the branding. And that's what kind of put us off. It's like, yes, you can have all our branding and logos and all the rest of it, but it'll cost several £1,000s to do it. And we didn't feel good about that, did we? No. So we thought, well, why can't we run one for free? So 4 or 5 years ago, we did that, and we had the idea one Valentine's Day, wasn't it? I think it was in 20, whenever it was. And 6 weeks later, we'd filled the library with cool people who wanted to come and give their time for free to show people what they did, what they
Now,
made.
I've done it distinctly because I was in my PGCE year that year. So I'd done it distinctly. I wanted it because I wanted to show kids what the maker community was about. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, that was the other big thing, wasn't it?
There was nowhere to do that.
No.
You know, there was just no big event you could take a bunch of school kids to and show them. And the first year I had a great time showcasing, you know, these are all the people that are into making with my school kids. And it's continued and got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we're the biggest making event in the UK.
I think we probably are, because the Maker Fair in Newcastle isn't running anymore. So
No.
I think if you want to see something of that kind of scale, then Liverpool's a good place to come on June the 29th.
Yeah, so June the 29th is the day that you can come to Makefest. If you're a teacher, just rock up. You can come and see all the things that are going on in making. And it's a very social event. There's lots of maker get-togethers along. There's a pre-party and after-party. There's lots of get-togethers
Lots
for
of parties this year. And there's a kind of like a week of events, I think, leading up to it. Different things are happening in the week preceding.
Yeah, in the Liverpool Central Library. Yeah. But I wanted to talk to you because we're both educators. So what do you think of, like, how do you, I know I have my reasons for this, but how do you implement kind of the maker ethos into education? Well, this is the key thing that's really tricky to do when you're setting up your own makerspace in education.
Yeah, so my background, Steve, you'll know a little bit about Caroline's background from previous Nexus videos, in that she's in school, secondary school, with a makerspace, first in the country. There's one or two now more popping up, which is great. My background's different. I'm at university, so I've been at John Moores University in Liverpool for, I don't know, 29 years, something like that. And going way back when we first started this, you helped me set up my roll-on, roll-off makerspace. So I've never had the privilege of
other makerspaces that I'd had hands on, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, mine comprised a room that I could use sometimes and a trolley. And that's how some people have to start, because we don't have a bespoke space that I can keep all year round just to do that particular thing. Part of it's a university thing, because in universities we don't have classes that we keep and classrooms that we keep and bring kids in and out of. So we're constantly moving, and we have students for a few hours a week. So having a permanent space in a uni was back then quite a tricky thing to do. So we devised the idea of a roll on, roll off, didn't we? And got a bunch of kit, and you helped me set that up. So my delivery was very much through, in unis we have modules, and I was responsible for a module on the doing of science. So all the undergrads in natural sciences and psychology come through me to learn the basic do's and don'ts of scientific research and statistics, which is quite a dry and dull subject. So we looked at ways to spice it up, didn't we?
Yeah, and we kind of designed, I helped Mark design a maker component to that. And then during that period, we had students doing all kinds at your place.
We did.
It was really fun.
It was. That's several years ago now. There's been a bit of a change in the demographics. So the kind of students I'm getting now are quite different from they were 5 years ago. They're much more risk averse and, have low self-efficacy, and it's very much about the test these days. And I'm sure you're familiar with that, this taught to test thing. We're seeing it. So that creative spark is dying out a little bit.
No, not all the way.
Not all the way. So the way it works in my place is I run a module. It's a pathway, a bit not as big as yours, but it's a pathway. It's an option for students to engage with statistics and science in a way that doesn't require them to sit in the lecture hall and go to computer workshops afterwards. So if they want to, they can learn a different way. They can make things and learn things and build things.
And this Mark's pathway, when we built that, influenced my pathway when I implemented it in Spark. I implemented it in the same sort of way in my school.
Yeah, you did,
in a module sort of way.
Yeah.
It was implemented on a skill set sort of way, with the skills up front to allow them to do many things. So at the moment I'm knee deep in 3D printing, as everybody knows this term. So 3D printing, what you could use it for, there's a multitude of things you can use 3D printing for, but I wanted them all to be able to use it for every single thing that they could. Once they know how to use that tool, they can then implement it in everything.
Yeah.
So yours was very using the tools to
It was.
enable something else, wasn't it?
So it's all about the tools. It's all about the thing. It's all about the process.
The process of thinking.
It's about thinking and having the opportunity to make mistakes and iterate and try things. It's very much what do you want to do? Oh, well, let's give it a go. Don't know whether it'll work. They'll try something, it may not work. So how can you make that differently? Can you change that? Can you make that work? Sometimes you have to scale their ambitions down.
Yeah.
Like
you still have to do that now.
Still have seen this at your school.
At my school, have you seen that? So you do that thing where you kind of like.
Well, we had this thing. Do you remember when we did
up and then you have to
scale
scale it down
about robots? It's like, can we make robots? We were doing this thing with Raspberry Pi and stuff.
To help me with doing some Raspberry Pi.
Can we build robots? Like, yeah, we can build robots. And this lad said, can I build a robot that's will detect when his batteries are running low, and then seek sunlight to recharge its solar panels, to recharge its battery so it can keep on doing what it's doing? And it's like, that's a genius idea. Very ambitious, but how do we put that into
Well, in 5 years' time, in the 5th year, my students may be able to do that individually.
Yeah.
But obviously my program concentrates on building those skills up over time, because I recognized with mine very early on that putting a bunch of kit in a room and their ambitions are greater than their abilities.
Can I make a mobile phone was another one.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
you need to be able to stage it so that you can, even with your undergraduate, you need to stage it.
We had
to go upwards.
Yeah, we had a genius one in a similar kind of thing. So your kids are not really different from my undergrads in their ambition and naivety at the same time. And it was that case of, we want to build a little robot that will go down a vole hole. Vole holes are tiny little things about this sort of big, to measure the microhabitat, the microclimate inside the vole hole, and then ping the results back. And it's like, okay, that's kind of like microelectronics and probably a bit beyond what we can do. So we ended up with them putting together this little thing that was actually drawn by we called it the Chariot.
Yeah,
and it was a little data logger about the size of 2 postage stamps.
I judged these ones.
It Bluetoothed data out about the environment. Then the question was, how do you get it down a vole burrow? So we made a tube the same size as the vole burrow. And they actually ended up using a couple of hex bugs as like horses to pull this little Lego chariot with the sensor on through the tunnel and ping the results. So it wasn't quite what they'd imagined, but it was a proof of concept. It showed the ideas, and making's about trying things out and learning by doing. It's not about coming up with the most slick, flash, polished thing. It's anything but. It's about the rough and ready.
Perfect.
Yeah, it is. It's about the messiness of learning.
The rough and ready.
Yeah.
Do you find that you, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it when my students polish a project so it gets really nice when they have the opportunity to do that. But I think a lot of the time, I think very, very carefully about the learning capacity that's going on in them.
I think that's
what's being learned and what's being explained, and how are they processing that cognitively before we get to the, it looks nice. The looking's less important to me.
It's really not, in my view. It's not about the artifact that they produce at the end. It's not about the actual fabricated thing. It's about that we shouldn't sound too wishy-washy. It's the kind of like journey of getting there. So it's the things they pick up along the way, and that can-do mindset, and those light bulb moments where it's like they try something and it works, or it doesn't work and they figure out why it goes wrong. Whether it looks pretty or not, the end of it, for me, is neither here nor there. I'd rather have a whole room full of Mucky Heath Robinson things that do something interesting that they've learned something from, than some polished, finished product, which can take a lot of time to do. And there's not a lot of learning in
there's not
buffing something up.
It's
like making something shiny.
I often think about that.
It's the prototyping, isn't it? You've said this. It's the rapid prototyping phases and the iteration that's where the learning takes place.
After that, it's really, we're just making it look nice. Now, don't get me wrong, there's lots in schools for us about presentation, the presentation of work, whether our work is presented correctly, whether we take pride in our work. And I understand that. But when you're trying to make a project in a makerspace, or you're trying to learn by making, it becomes less about the polished artifact and much more about the iteration process, how you got there, and then explaining how you got there. That's the other thing, being able to adequately articulate
what you did and why you did that particular thing. The stages, often when you see kids make things, we were at what was it? It was the code thing the other week. Cool.
Oh, the coolest projects.
Coolest projects. And
Which, by the way, check out. It's an awesome
check out
project.
Coolest Projects. It's a Raspberry Pi kind of run thing, and there was a lad there who built this wonderful thing to allow elderly people with perhaps dementia and other issues of being able to get into their homes and their homes to be secure. So it involved facial recognition and all these things, and it wasn't the thing that he built that was fascinating. It was talking to him about the journey he'd gone through and the things he tried and hadn't worked and why he'd done this. And stuff. Well, why is that bit on there like that? Well, it's there instead of here because I've used that instead of this one. I tried that and that didn't work. It's those conversations. And he was, what, 11, something like that? It was amazing. So that's what I think Maker Ed is about. School maker spaces. It's not a fab lab. It's not a clean, spanking digital fabrication thing to churn stuff out. It's a tinkering space.
It's
a messy learning environment.
Having a clean space versus a messy space. There's a thing with makers where we kind of prefer a messy space. A lot of the best maker spaces, if you go to see industry maker spaces, when you go see them, they're very messy.
We don't mean in an unhygienic way or necessarily a disorganized way. There's stuff everywhere.
And there's projects going on.
There's projects going on. There's
I describe it to my students as like the Big Hero 6 lab.
The Nerd Lab.
The Nerd Lab in Big Hero 6. It looks like that.
It does.
If it looks like that, then you're in a makerspace. If it looks a little too clean or polished or like you couldn't take something apart, then you're not necessarily.
And I think the other thing is that makerspaces, I mean, some do, I suppose, but I'm thinking makerspaces have stuff spread around, but you don't tend to have to restrict your electronics to one part of the room or your 3D printing to one part of the room. Bits of kit maybe in certain places so you gravitate towards it, but very often you cobble it, you pull it all together in one particular thing, and it's
but that's probably why we end up with such creative projects going on in them, because it's not like one piece of kit is restricted from another piece of kit. It's not like you have it. I'm finding this quite challenging at the moment with my Raspberry Pi lab.
Right.
Like I've got a whole lab dedicated to Raspberry Pi, right? And it's amazing and I love it. So I've got a room full of Pi at the moment. But I'm having this moment where I would normally combine my Pi with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I know.
And now I'm not. Now I'm using it just for the stuff for Pi. So I'm going to have to probably get more Pis for the makerspace.
I think you need twice as much Pi. I know exactly what you mean. There's no room in the makerspace to have a Pi suite, but on the other hand, you want Pis in there. But then you need a bigger space to actually run big groups of Pi things going on, because the makerspace has other bits in it.
So for me, I kind of, you've got to then think carefully about how you integrate your kit in different spaces and how that works.
Well, and move it around. I think you made a point on one of your last, I think it might have been one of your last Nexus things where it's like if you're not using stuff.
Somebody else should be.
Because at the moment I've got a whole bunch of Pis because I don't have any Pis. I've got loads of Arduinos but no Pis, and I've got to run a Pi thing this Friday with a group of second years, and it's like, Caroline, are you using all your
Pis? Which is
Pis?
one of the reasons why us and JMU have done so well, because we do trade kit between each other.
We do. So your Pi suite, I think we gave you a bunch of the old monitors, didn't we, for your Pi suite?
Donated.
And now you're loaning me the Pis back. So
you donated me the screens for my Raspberry Pi suite, some of them, and some of our keyboards and mice. And I got Pis, and now I'm loaning you them back. So
it's a nice kind of like
it's a bit of a trading system going on.
It's also a good way to get kit if you're trying to set up a makerspace in school. Get in touch with your local uni or college, because they're always throwing out computer stuff and tech equipment and upgrading it for the latest thing, and it usually gets sent to a computer recycling center, and you might be able to kind of like interrupt that process and grab it along the way and reuse some of that stuff for free. So resourcing's up. You've talked before about resourcing. You don't need to go out and buy loads and loads of stuff. You really don't.
No, it can be quite cheap.
I mean, recycle, reuse, repurpose.
How much kit did you have in your makerspace when you roll on, roll off?
When I first started, I had a few. I didn't have anywhere near as much as you've got. I had a bunch of Arduinos, and which I can't for the life of me remember where we got them from. I think we picked up a few, and then were given a few more, and then I think I got a small pot of something for some other thing that I had to spend, and I bought some electronicsy bits, and then hacked out a bunch of other odds and sods that weren't being used, and then gradually accumulated it over the time. Then I think the stuff that I haven't been using, some of that's now gone to you.
Yeah.
And because I'm moving in slightly different directions with it. So
Yeah.
what this ethos, so talked a little bit about maker ethos, this idea of iterating and being messy is one aspect of it. The other is, reuse things, resource, repurpose things and share. So this sharing thing where you borrow stuff from each other and you share in each other's success, you help each other on projects. It's like, do you have any idea how you could do that? I know so-and-so's tried that.
I'm trying to be more vocal about the people that I've shared in success things recently. So I've been putting on Twitter, I've been putting Snapcut cards. Have you ever seen Legally Blonde or watch it? Snapcut, you put little things in it and then you take it out. You won't know what I mean, but trust me, it's awesome. It's a way to just say thank you for certain things to certain people. And one of them I said was to Big Les. So Big Les is one of the team of Makefest, and there's nobody that hasn't learned Raspberry Pi off Big Les.
Indeed.
No one.
I tapped him up a while back looking about how you can play video feeds through a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Thank you, Les. Sent me on the right journey.
So you have this moment where, and he said to me, he said to me underneath the tweet, I don't know why you think about, thank you for the gratitude. And I said, yeah, but Les, everybody's learned Raspberry Pi off you, obviously. At some point with Pi Academy or Pi, we've all had something to do with Big Les for Pi. Yeah. And it's that sense of acknowledgement and community, and community. That sense of expertise sharing.
Community. So that's it. There are no egos. There are no egos in making. People have different skill sets. People help each other. People share things. The measure of a good maker is that you want to help and you want to find out how things are done, and you'll offer your assistance. And usually it's for free. Your time for free. Caroline does a whole bunch of stuff in libraries and code clubs and all the rest of it, and you don't have to do it, do you? I mean, none of us have to do it.
No.
But it's the joy of sharing.
Sometimes people think that
that's your full-time job.
Yeah, they do.
I get
they
that.
think that's my full-time
job.
Do you get that?
All the time.
So both of us have.
We have day jobs.
Day jobs?
Yeah.
I don't know whether you know this. So both of us have separate day jobs. Yeah. And because we are two of the founders, Denise, the third founder of Makefest, gets the same thing. I am going to. Yeah. But I asked her when we had the Makefest meeting last, and she said, give me a day to get my act together. So I'm giving you a day, Denise. Basically, she has a full-time job too. So the three of us do other things. So I do science and teach our pathway. Mark lectures in
animals mostly.
Nothing to do with tech.
No, I bring tech in occasionally, but it's mostly animals and statistics.
Yeah. And Denise runs a library.
Yeah.
But I think, do you get that impression because we do that much between the three of us that people think that that's what we do?
Yeah, I do. I think it's considered our full-time job.
Your full-time job is this.
We run a festival and do outreach, and that's all we do.
Yeah.
It's like,
so what are the projects that you've been doing recently?
Projects on the go.
Aren't anything to do with what you do?
Oh, they're not anything to do with what I do. So things I've got on the go, I'm doing an outreach thing with the school in St Helens. Can I give a shout out to
them? You can give a shout out.
Sutton Academy. Sutton Academy in St Helens. I'm doing some work with a brilliant bunch of Year 10 girls there. We're playing around with interactive biology. So it involves touch sensors, touch sensitive things.
Oh, is that on a Bear Conductive?
It's on a Bear Conductive touch board, so I'm playing around with that. Okay. I'm doing some bits with one of our lecturers to do with teaching basic Pi stuff on Friday. We've got Light Night coming up, so I'm doing a thing with Luma Creations. It's a secret. It's a secret. It's a kind of like bells and whistles, song and dance, cultural, arty thing. I'm just providing the electronics and doing some of the lighty bits. Francisco and Luma are doing all the choreography and the costumes and things. So that's May 18th in Liverpool, Light Night at the library. I don't know, other things I've got on the go. Various Star Wars project is still in the back of my mind, although that's not happening yet. So as and when, Code Club. Yeah. We've done some Code Club somewhere as well. So as and when I have time, dip in and out.
How do you find, so if you were to give some advice for like a making teacher, because you and me have worked together on Makefest, we've worked together on maker educational research, we've worked together on pretty much most making projects now. Yes. And you've done loads of making other stuff that's separate to the things that I do. What would be your best advice to a starting making teacher?
Somebody wanting to start off, what, teacher in school or a teacher?
Yeah, a teacher in school.
Teacher in school.
I think it's hard for me to see this because I'm in school.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So if I was in a school, how would I do it? I would try and find somewhere that you can pull together people that have different levels of expertise, different interests in areas into a location maybe, and bits and bobs that they have left over that they don't use into a particular place, and sit down around the table and think, what could we teach and what could we do with the things that we've got here?
See, I think a lot of it's envisaging those learning experiences. It's really trying to use your imagination to design learning experiences to start with.
Yeah, I think a good mentality, I'm just thinking this now, a good mentality to get into it is to have a bunch of stuff knocking around, gather together bunches of stuff, whether it's art resources, bits of electronics, anything that is stuck in your prep rooms that no one's using, bung it all on the table with people from different disciplines and say, what fun things could we do with this to teach kids how to do stuff?
I do that.
It's a bit like a hack.
But I do that. It's almost a hack. But I do that with a particular direction.
Yeah.
So I'll go, there's all the stuff. How could we use this to teach this?
Yeah. I think that's ultimately how you have to go. But as a starting point for people to feel what it's like, I mean, maybe a way to do it would be to get someone in who's done it or is involved with the maker community and just organise a kind of like a school hack to show people the kinds of things
that
you can do with it and the fun you can have with just trying to make something without necessarily any purpose to it initially.
So Pete Lomas, his favourite line is, cardboard is the greatest maker.
Cardboard, absolutely. Cardboard is the best resource for teachers. So get away from this idea. I'm sure Caroline's probably said on one of her. Get away from this idea that to have a maker space or to do cool things, you need bunches of expensive tech and bunches of expensive kit. You don't. You can make amazing things with cardboard without any electronics on it.
Did you see that a couple of years back? Liz Smart built a giant robot.
I did. It was the first year of Makefest.
A giant robot.
She brought a giant robot out of card and corrugated stuff.
Yeah, the kids had built a giant robot.
Yeah.
It was quite phenomenal, actually.
It was.
But yeah, there's lots of projects I've seen that have used and adapted and just used cardboard to start with. And some of the projects I've been looking at recently are the stuff from Hacking STEM. Have you seen that?
Hacking STEM stuff's really good. Yeah, I like Hacking STEM stuff.
Hacking STEM stuff from Microsoft is really good. That's very cheap project.
That's another way in. So another way would be to go on some of the recommendations that'll turn up on the Nexus video blogs, particularly in Caroline's, I think.
Yeah.
It's resources that are already there. Grab a project off
and just run it.
And run it, try it. And they're usually designed, well, especially I think Hacking STEM, that's the Microsoft stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's designed to be as cheap as humanly possible using resources that you probably have knocking around.
Yeah.
So start with one of those and just try and run it probably as a kind of, I guess, practically you'd have to run it as an enrichment or extracurricular to begin with.
I think one of the Hacking STEM ones, I'd run them as an enrichment just to start with. Get your feet.
I think you can't easily leap straight into trying to embed it or run it alongside an entire curriculum. Some people can, but most people can't.
People have been in making for
a long time. You know what you're doing. But if you're starting out, then have like a maker club would be a good way to go. And just bring things in, get the kids to bring in stuff that's broken from home or that their parents are chucking away.
Project has a good history
repair and reuse. Yeah, or even getting kids literally to take apart things to see how they're made. And then maybe even try and put them back together again and fix things that are broken. It's very often when you take it apart, you spot what's wrong with it. So just you saw the fun your kids had. You brought in a bunch of computers and gave them screwdrivers.
So take them
apart for the bits, and they loved it.
My kids do that for a therapeutic reason. So when my kids get stressed in my makerspace, they turn up and take apart stuff in our recycle corner. So they just come in, and it's quite often a mix of kids, and especially those kids with special educational needs. They get stressed easily. They've had enough of that day. They'll come in the corner and they'll be like, "Miss, can I get a screwdriver? I'm just going to take this apart." And they just sit and systematically take something apart. If
you get to the stage where you have to hit it with a hammer, you've missed a screw somewhere.
You
should never have to hit anything with a hammer to break it apart.
What what would be your experience of like the maker ethos itself? I'm acutely aware it's about half an hour.
I think I'm going to sit through this.
You don't know that.
I don't know this. The maker ethos. The maker ethos is really about. It's about, I guess, at the heart of it is sharing. It's about sharing your passion. It's about sharing your ideas. It's about sharing your expertise. It's about sharing your time. It's about celebrating what other people do, giving them the thumbs up when they do a cracking job of something.
Yeah, being giving them credit and really celebrating when somebody does something good.
Yeah, and
that's a big part.
And involving yourself in other people's stuff. So we know a whole bunch of makers that they're spread out all over the place. We go to their events, they go to our events. You get to meet cool people, but you also get to share in what they're doing and support their efforts in things, in their fundraising or their time, or cross-pollinating ideas. You know, you can't be a maker in isolation. You know, no maker's an island. Somebody must have said that. You're really not. You are part of a community. It's about the people. It's about sharing and celebrating, and it's about the openness that goes with that. And there is sadly a downside to that these days, in that people, you know, with the best will in the world, they share their ideas openly, and sadly there's always somebody out there who's looking to make a buck off the back of something that somebody else has done, nick people's ideas, and that's starting to be a bit of an issue. There are ways around it. But it's sad that people have to do that, people's work, people are passing off work as theirs when someone else has done it.
But I'll tell you now, everybody's seen the test resource scandal, didn't you guys?
I saw that.
Did you?
I did indeed.
Yeah, so there's, that's a different one. So yeah, the test resource scandal, where we were all kind of like, our resources that we gave away for free are being sold. And it's kind of the same thing. Makers tend to put the resources up for free, and sometimes we get people who are not really in that culture that then take them and sell them.
They do. And even call it the same thing.
Yeah. There's lots of ways you can deal with this. And I'm probably going to do something a little on Creative Commons to cover, you know, what can you do to make sure, if you want to put stuff out there, your design stuff, you want to get on board with it. How do you go about making sure that your stuff always gets recognised as your stuff, which it should do if you've spent the time doing something excellent.
That's the other part of maker culture, is it's all very centred around open source. This idea of freely giving things away and showing people how to do things. So if you go to things like Instructables online, people will post up how they do their projects with all the instructions and the kit, and they do that freely for you to use. But there's this idea that if you do that, you acknowledge it. You don't use it to make a buck off it. You don't take their idea and package it and then sell it.
No, you always acknowledge the thing that you use.
Yeah, you do. So there's this way of protecting it. It's not about this is mine. People want to give it away for free, but on the other hand, they want it to be used responsibly and not to. We know a number of people, you know, some of them quite high profile projects that have been born off the back of people tinkering in sheds and coming up with a great idea that somebody else has then kind of like taken, packaged it and sold on, and now makes a lot of money out of. And you know, it's unfair, and it's not maker ethos. We do this thing, it's like not maker ethos. You know, don't work with people who don't have that ethos, that are going to take your stuff and say, oh, that's just my idea.
It's like in teaching, you always have those teachers
that will do that.
Oh, this person did this hard work on something, but they're acting as if it was the complete thing, or you know, we have that everywhere. No matter what
people do. It's human nature, I guess. People don't claim it as their own, but they kind of imply by omission.
I think in makers that it really grates them, doesn't it? I think it does, because
it does, not for any personal thing. It's not an ownership thing at all. No. Quite the reverse. The fact that you are being open and open sourcing and making it available to everybody else because you want it to be free, if someone then packages it and tries to sell it. So it's really not about, well, you're making money and I didn't. You're missing the point. That's not maker ethos. So there is this kind of, what's the word? Kind of like a morality.
Yeah, I guess there is.
Through it all.
You can see those in Makerspace's maker manifestos. So like Make in Liverpool, who we're friends with, has a great maker manifesto. Go check those out. And there's lots of different maker manifestos that are out there that you can write up that says kind of what your makerspace is about and how it feels about these things. So, you know, they have a lovely maker manifesto that talks about how they want to share and make sure that they're diverse and make sure that they're open, and it's really lovely, so please check that out. Other than that, you're right, it is like 35 minutes, and we had like a brief talk about like ethos, so I'll come back to you and talk to you again probably, because when I start doing a bit more about the research I'm doing, it'll probably be good to have a pedagogical conversation about it. I know, sounds thrilling. Right, I'll catch us all later. Thanks, bye.